just go ahead.
Oh,
Start.
Alright. Well, this is our presentation. Our topic is adaptation in Woman in the Dunes and how the different aspects of the novel apply to this. So let's go.
Alright, our first subject is Stockholm Syndrome. Alright, and just a little bit joke there. You can read it yourself. I'll read it too, I guess. Just read a book about Stockholm Syndrome. It started off badly, but by the end, I really liked it. It'll make more sense, hopefully, as I go through the slides. Okay. Stockholm Syndrome is the phenomenon in which victims display compassion for and even loyalty towards their captors. Statistics show that Stockholm Syndrome occurs in every one out of 4 hostages. A little bit of background information. It was first widely recognized after the Swedish bank robbery that gave it its name. For 6 days in August of 1973, thieves Jan Erik Olsen and Clark Olsen held 4 Stockholm bank employees hostage at gunpoint in a vault. When the victims were released, their reaction shocked the world. They hugged and kissed their captors, declaring loyalty even as the kidnappers were carted off to jail. And then how does this connect to the novel? Well, it's pretty clear, some pretty clear connections. Like at first Nicky resents and wants to escape from his captivity for most of the book, and he hates the people for for putting him there and stuff. But as the novel progresses, and at the end he even tolerates them and perhaps even likes them. And like on one of the almost last pages, it says, and if you wanted to talk about it, there wouldn't be better listeners than the villagers. So obviously he grows to even want to talk to them and stuff and share experiences and stuff. So obviously he had a pretty big shift from being this captured hostage at this village to actually talking to the captors. And in particular, he possibly even loves the woman that he's trapped with in the novel. At first he despised the woman for tricking him, but as the novel progresses, it can be said he develops even feelings for her. During his escape attempts, he constantly thinks about her and keeps going back to her and stuff. And then it kind of connects to existentialism in a way too. It's all about adapting to life and just kind of going with whatever happens. And the hostages who experience Stockholm Syndrome would probably agree with the existential way in that regards. Do you guys have any examples in the novel where you think that Nicky might be experiencing Stockholm Syndrome?
There's a lot, so.
When he sells them as kids, where they put them, right? Or
Say
he's
again?
pregnant at least.
Well,
He has he starts a family there.
kind of. Describe.
When he says something about how, and I will miss her smile, that's a
Yeah.
personal thing that we know that he must have feelings for her.
I think bonds with her kind of. Alright.
Kobo Abe, his writing was inspired by many authors previously because he uses similar themes and similar structure. It says that he may have experienced an unconscious influence from traditional works, so even Abe admits that his works were influenced by previous writings. Hisaki Yamanouchi says his works provide a picture of life in which man is utterly lonely, deprived of communication with his fellow men, and determined by physical reality. I thought this quote was excellent because it portrays 3 of the themes that are found in Woman in the Dunes, and it also is, these themes are shown throughout the works that inspired Abe. One of these themes is the physical. Nicky is immersed in physically painful sensations because of the sand, and this makes him limited by the sand. It says the boundaries of Nicky's self are reduced to those of the body, so he's forced only to focus on his body to clear away the sand, and he has to learn to adapt to living in the sand. And his soul is subordinate to this because the villagers, while he's in captivity, the villagers don't care about his emotional health. They just want him to work and help the women. Another common theme is the loss of reality. Nikki loses touch with time, and we actually see his watch stops working. And the woman also, she only senses the night when it's time to work. She doesn't operate on like hours or time. And Nikki describes the woman as an animal-like woman thinking only in terms of today. No yesterday, no tomorrow, with a dot for a heart. She is living in the present, and this is an existential piece that we see in the novel. One of the authors that influenced Abe that shows these themes was Dostoevsky. He lived during the 19th century, and he was a Russian novelist, journalist, and short story writer. He influenced the 20th century literature greatly. One of his stories was called Crime and Punishment. It was published in 1866, and it was an account of an individual's fall and redemption and an exploration of the psychology of a criminal. This novel, it suggests actual punishment is better than trying to figure out a plan to avoid the punishment. And avoiding the punishment is tied with stress and anxiety. And we see this with Nikki, that adapting to his environment is better than struggling to escape. Because when he tries to escape, he is stressed and he has to figure out an elaborate plan so he's not seen by the villager in the tower. And he has to time the mist just right so he can conceal himself. And in the end, he gets caught anyway and is stuck in the quicksand, and so he decides to give in to life in the sand pit and to adapt. And we see this is confirmed because there's little to no hope because no one has escaped previously. Another person that influenced him was Kafka. Kafka lived during 1883 to 1924. He was a German author of short stories and novels. And it just seemed like, why Kafka? Why was he an influencer? And he came after the Meiji Restoration of 1868, and this gave political power to the imperial throne. This time period was a process of rapid westernization and modernization, and the Japanese authors turned to Western literature. One of his main themes was the theme of a counter-reality. It's present in many of his works and woven throughout. It introduces radical changes into the deceptively normal and secure world of the protagonist. So the changes are forced upon the protagonist that make them rethink their previous ideas and conceptions, and they have to learn to adapt to them. And this is present in The Woman in the Dunes when Nikki, he's a school teacher, and all of a sudden he's thrust into this sand pit, and he has to learn to adapt to this counter-reality. And he doesn't know what will happen, and so he has to acclimate to the sand as best he can. One of his short stories that shows this is The Metamorphosis. And the protagonist, Gregor, is transformed into a giant insect, and he has to adapt to his new body. His mind begins to change with his physical needs. For example, he prefers tight, dark spaces, and he enjoys climbing on the walls. And this suggests our physical lives shape our mental lives. With the constant effects of sand and the power of the town, Nikki learns to conserve water and get water, and this is his invention with the hope. And so his physical life, living out in the sand, he has to figure out new ways to think and adapt. And the dunes provide this space for internal metamorphosis because he can open up new life perspectives and discover new things when he discovers the water. And this water allows him to better adapt. Internal metamorphosis, he breaks out of his mental prison when he finds water. It says the fact that he was just as much at the bottom of the hole as ever had not changed, but he felt quite as if he had climbed to the top of the tower. Now that he has found water, the villagers don't hold power over Nikki, and the change in the sand corresponded to a change in himself. Perhaps along the way with the water and the sand, he had found a new self. So he finally adapts not only to the sand, but to himself. He feels empowerment and grows in self-confidence now that he finds the water. And additional influences that there's themes present in Woman in the Dunes are in Beach, Lewis Carroll, Haruki Murakami, Beckett, and Ionesco. And Haruki Murakami wrote After Dark, which several of you read, and there's some parallels between that and Woman in the Dunes.